It's our plan to have our athletic program comparable to USC, to Notre Dame, to Alabama, to anybody.
Welcome back, Liberty fans, to the Week 2 edition of the A Sea of Red football podcast, sponsored by Jason Porter, Legacy Realty. And our Flames, your Flames, my Flames, are 1-0. Gentlemen, how are we doing this Tuesday night?
Well, we are 1-0, and as your tagline there says, we could be worse. So
Could be worse.
Happy to get the win, happy to be 1-0, and keep it moving into Week 2.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Happy to be here tonight. Happy to be 1-0, and happy to be looking ahead to trying to get 1-0 again to make it 2-0.
Exactly. We got Maine in the rearview. We're definitely going to talk about that tonight, but big matchup coming up against Jacksonville State. A lot to talk about. We're excited to kind of jump in on everything, but, Week 1, how are we feeling? We don't need to take a deep dive into the game, the X's and the O's, the Jimmys and the Joes. It's just good to have football back. What's the feeling like right now?
No, it's definitely good to have football back. And I think if you didn't watch the game, or were in a wedding, which who has fall weddings, but if you were in a wedding Saturday and unable to watch and you just woke up Sunday morning and look at your newspaper, does anybody do that anymore? But looked at your box score or, read a post-game recap article or something and look at the stats, you probably wouldn't be that upset. I mean, the in-game stats were pretty solid. I mean, individually and as a team as a whole as well too, and holding them to 7 points. I think you got to feel good about your defense, and we could talk about Vasco, and we will talk about him more as we go. But his final stats were very solid. And he accounted for. Or had a hand in all 4 of the touchdowns, including 1 rushing and then his 3 passing touchdowns. So if we could have gotten off to a better start, specifically on the offensive side of the ball, and scored, if you go back to that first drive of the game, I mean, what was it, 17, 18 plays?
Yeah.
And that offensive pass interference kind of set us back and ended up missing the field goal. If we don't have that penalty, could we have punched that in? I think we would have punched that in for a touchdown, and maybe it's an entirely different game, and you're always playing from ahead. But obviously you can't take plays back and penalties off the board. But 28-7 ultimately felt like the team finally got things going in the fourth quarter. It's just we need to do that from the get-go, and especially as we'll talk about as the night goes on with Jax State coming up Saturday. You can't wait until the last 7 seconds of the first half to score your first points.
Yeah, totally agreed. That was well said, John. I feel like it's something, again, we'll talk about this throughout the show, but we do have to, as much as possible, try to get last year's feelings, last year's thoughts out of our system as much as possible so they don't influence our thoughts about this year's team. Because if you carry those in, it could just exasperate just the feelings that you would have of, oh gosh, I'm worried. We've seen this story before and stuff. Of course, that's somewhat valid, but we also have to let go and realize this is a new team. This is a new setting. And again, we're 1-0. So
exactly. Just 2 quick things before we kick it over to our main man, Jason Porter. Last year we were saying, hey, we can't look at last year. It's a new year. I think to an extent you could say, hey, there's similarities between last year's Week 1, but as you said, this is a new team. This is a new season. It's just great to have football back. It's great to be able to talk online. Oh, we got Jax State people in that crowd. It's going to be good. And these guys are liabilities. It's great to have football back. It's great to be able to discuss non-hypotheticals. It's great to be able to point to a product on the field and say, hey, this is where we're at. And that's how we're going to start the show. We're going to bring in our main man, Jason Porter, and a surprise guest to talk about last week.
It's real Florida. It's old Florida, and it's close to all of the Central Florida attractions, crystal clear natural springs, and one of the largest chain of lakes. The beautiful lakefront city of Leesburg offers the best in outdoor adventures, fishing, and quaint shops and restaurants on historic downtown Main Street. Come visit and see how welcoming a hometown city feels. Experience Leesburg the way Florida is meant to be.
We've got Jason Porter with us and Liberty safety Eli August. JP, start with you. How are you feeling? Liberty's 1-0. How are things going? Did you have a good first call? Obviously, I'm there in person, so I don't get to listen to you a lot. But how'd the call go on the radio with AY?
Yeah, John, always good to be with you again. I think everything went really well first game for us. It's always good to refresh the roster, change some numbers around, and make some exciting calls. Obviously, the second half was a little bit more exciting than the first half was. I guess that's in the eyes of the beholder. But we had a good first broadcast for sure. Got the win. That's all that matters.
Yeah, if you're anything like me, game one is a lot about, you got to have that roster card nearby. Like who's that? Who's in that number, and who's that guy? And you got some returning guys, but in new numbers. And so it takes a game or two to kind of get all those kinks out. But one guy that we're familiar with is Eli. Eli, we're glad to have you joining us. You spent your entire career at Liberty, started as a walk-on, and now you're here. I think it's your last year, but we're glad to have you join us this season. You and Jacob Jenkins, who was on last week, will kind of be rotating in and out. But Eli, how are things going for you?
Man, it's really good, man. I'm happy to be here. Happy to finally get the season started. Felt like it was a long fall camp, but definitely happy to get it started. We're 1-0, so just moving on to the next now.
Eli, before we jump into some of the football talk, Flames Central, of course, did a great piece on you. If our folks haven't seen that, and just tell them a little bit about your story. But tell us a little bit about how you wound up at Liberty, what Liberty's meant to you so far. John teed it up perfectly, just saying that you were a lifer here, so to speak. So talk to us about what Flames Nation has meant to you.
Man, it means a lot, man. I first started off as a walk-on, and it's kind of crazy just because somebody I used to play was a GA here back in 2021, and he told me at my senior year in high school, he was like, "Man, I think you can really play here." And I had a couple offers in college, but it wasn't really something like big. And I went to a couple official visits, and it wasn't really something I kind of liked. So then I took a visit up to Liberty, just trying to see how it was over the summer, and then I really liked it. So then I took the chance, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna walk on here. And ever since then, like, I felt welcomed, I felt good. God been blessing me, so I definitely love it here.
Eli, you've had a chance to play in our two coaching staffs. Obviously came in when Coach Freeze was here, and now here with Coach Chadwell. Take us into some of the defensive staff, Coach Krantz, and some of those other guys on that side of the ball. What's your relationship been like with them, and how do you think that the adjustment was with them? Obviously, you're going into year 3. They've been here a little while now, but just that adjustment for that new coaching staff, what was that like for you?
At first, it was kind of like a shock for me because I wasn't too sure if I was going to be able to stay on the team. I wasn't too sure if my spot was still there. But once they came in, they welcomed me with open arms. They kind of already knew or was a little bit familiar with who everybody was. Me and Coach Krantz get along well. That's my guy. He always cracks some jokes, always talking to me well. He loves hanging with the safeties too. So he coached safeties when he was at his old school. So I like him a lot, and he definitely welcomed me and welcomed us with open arms ever since he got here.
Yeah, Eli, one of the things that we like here is being able to have an offensive side of the ball and a defensive side of the ball, and you as a safety obviously bring that to us this year, which we're excited about on the podcast here. But jumping back to last week a little bit in the Maine game, we got a nice refresher of turnovers and the turnover in the Joker mask and just the hype that you guys get so excited about when you had the turnover piece. Coming off of 2 years ago when turnovers and interceptions specifically were, I can't remember if we led the nation, but we were pretty close, I think, overall in turnover percentages and certainly in interceptions. But talk a little bit about how focused you guys are on the defensive side of the ball to create turnovers, and really what a game changer that is for your position group.
Yeah, it really is. A lot of the old heads kind of help us, like we kind of help each other out with that because we've been there when we were the top school and almost leading the nation in turnovers. So we try and like harp that on the young guys and the transfer portal guys. Like, man, everything is about the ball. We can't just sit back here and just play defense. We got to have a knack for the ball, and we every week we'll have a little circuit of just a little turnover circuit of us just working on punching the ball out, working on catching interceptions. But that's definitely a big identity for our defense, and we definitely all like take a lot of pride in that.
Coach Chadwell's talked a lot, ever since training camp started about the potential he thinks this defense has to, be one of the best in Conference USA and maybe even all of the group of five. What was it about this camp, this team, this defense, or maybe at what point did you think, maybe we are good, maybe we do have a chance to be good? Is it, due to the number of returners you guys got coming back, or maybe some of the additions? Or, and then you also see a lot and hear a lot about the depth really at all three levels of this defense.
Yeah. A little bit of everything. The transfers definitely have been helping us out. We got a lot of new additions to the D line. Them big boys been helping us out a lot. But it's definitely just all of us collectively kind of helping each other too. I would say that we like I said earlier, we really take pride in that, and we really like just love the turnover battle. So once we realized during camp, like from the ones, the twos, and the threes, there really wasn't any drop off. And that's kind of when we realized, like, okay, we can really be good. Like, if the ones are doing this, and then the twos are communicating the same way the ones are, and then when now the threes don't get as many reps, but they're communicating the same way we are, then we already knew. We were like, all right, we know we're going to be really good. Now we got to figure out different ways for us to get better and just not get complacent.
Eli, quick look at Jacksonville State here coming up on Saturday. Obviously, man, no rest, no turnaround. Conference USA first game out of the gate. Here we go, right? But as you look at their attack, it was, and again, only one game into it here, so we can't assume anything, but super balanced attack for them against UCF last week. Right about 160 yards, both on rushing side and on pass side. So when you've got a balanced attack like that, and again, not to make any more of it, one game into it, what kind of challenges does a balanced offensive attack, both sides of the ball, create for you guys?
It kind of keeps us on our toes, so we can't really just focus on stopping the run, or focus on let's create turnovers in the air and stop the pass. We kind of have to sit back a little bit and just kind of have to read our keys and be very disciplined on basically all the things that they run. They ran a lot of the stuff that we have seen last year also. So that's definitely another thing that we can kind of pick up on and try and fix our mistakes from last year going into the game.
We're talking with Liberty senior defensive back Eli August, and this portion of this podcast is presented by RT Rogers. We're glad to have them back again sponsoring this podcast, but specifically this player segment. And RT Rogers is a company that's been around for a while and, led by Liberty alums. Always great to have them with us. Eli, can you tell us a little bit more about RT Rogers?
For over 50 years, our family-owned and operated oil company has been powering homes, farms, and businesses in our community. Whether you need residential or commercial propane and heating oil generators or expert service, we've got you covered. We also offer top-quality commercial and agricultural fuels, tanks, lubricants, and equipment, plus wholesale communities that help your business grow. Trust the experience and dedication that only a family business can deliver. Call us today and experience the difference.
Just like a pro, Eli. Good work. No, make sure you guys reach out to RT Rogers. They're always on campus at Liberty football games as well, too, and reach out to them if you might have any oil needs. Appreciate you, RT Rogers, and also you, Eli, for reading that for us. Let's go back to Jax State. And, they're a team that likes to run the ball. Last year, it was Liberty and Jax State 1 and 2 in rushing in the conference, and both top 5 rushing offenses last year. They got a new coaching staff there. Rich Rod's gone to West Virginia. But if you look back to the game Saturday, the defense, was outstanding all night long, with the exception of really one play. Maine gashed us for a 77-yard rushing touchdown right up the middle. Coach Chadwell talked about it being a misfit. On the offensive side of the ball, you can have one bad play and nobody really even notices if you have a misfit. But on the defensive side of the ball, if you have a misfit, that can lead to an explosive play and a touchdown, and everybody's noticing that. For you, Eli, and the rest of this defense, how do you guys try to make sure you're understanding where you're supposed to fit in each play? Is that just like a repetition type thing of knowing where you're supposed to be, and maybe that's maybe more likely to happen in a week one? Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. Also, a lot of communication. We harp on communicating a lot, and whether it's like between us and the coaches on a call we like or a call we don't like, or just us and our teammates like middle of the play or before the play, we always harp on that. So definitely some week one adjustments that we just had to fix, but nothing too major.
Eli, you mentioned it, and we talked actually last week with JJ about this too, with Jacob Jenkins, just talking about the whole chemistry issue and those kind of things. But as a veteran now, what's one of your favorite things that you just love to do, coaching up some of the young bucks and teaching them the ways of the backfield?
Man, it's kind of a little bit of everything. Like I'm kind of teaching the young guys now, just like coming out early for practice, the way to warm up, just the way to take care of your body. Because, shoot, when you get this old and when you get the senior year, it kind of taxes you a little bit. So I'm kind of teaching them that. I love the young guys though; they always bring me more energy each and every day, and they all got different personalities helping me out too. So it always keeps me on my toes. But definitely take care of your body. I'm teaching them a lot of, and we always. Not even just the young guys, but the older guys, like we're always coaching each other up once we get off the field and we're on the sideline, whether we did something really good or really bad, we're always coaching each other up, finding some way to get better.
Hey, speaking of follow-up, John, can I have one follow-up?
Yeah, go
Eli,
ahead.
give us a guy who, if he had a hot mic in front of him, would be a stand-up comedian on that defensive side of the ball.
On the defensive side of the ball, is it a young guy or old guy?
It doesn't matter, man. You got some characters on that side.
Yeah, I'll say Bryce Dixon, definitely. That's my guy.
Okay. Well, Eli, appreciate you joining us. It was funny to hear you say, as old as me. JP and I only wish we were as old as you were, but no, we appreciate you joining us. Look forward to having you back frequently throughout the season. But good luck this weekend down in Jacksonville. Make sure you stay hydrated. It might be hot down there early after, or actually it's a morning kickoff local time. But appreciate you joining us, Eli.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all too. Thank you so much. Let's go Flames.
Thanks, Eli.
Awesome. Good stuff. Love having Eli on, Jacob as well last week. Look forward to talking to both of those guys. Just goes to show you, the quality of young men that are in this program, like we kind of talked about last week.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the greatest things, John. We kind of get, like Richie opened us talking about the X's and O's and somebody in Joe's, but we forget the personalities behind some of these guys. And man, just such solid dudes. And you love the fact that not only do they love the ball, but they love the Lord, and God's doing great things in and through them, not on the football field, but also in the community.
Well, JP, I don't know if it's just me, but I seem to see several houses popping up on the market, at least in my neighborhood and nearby as I'm driving around town. Maybe the market's balancing out a little bit. Is that something that you're seeing? And what does that mean for buyers and or sellers?
Yeah, that's a great observation, and definitely all real estate is local, as they say, John. But here in the Lynchburg area, Forest area, Bedford County, Campbell County, for those of our folks that are local, we're definitely starting to see a little bit more of a balanced market. When we talk about balanced market, of course, the cliche is buyer's market, seller's market, and so a balanced market means it's kind of about 50-50. And still a lot of the same nuances apply as far as what's making a house move or sell or not sell. But I think at the same time, when the balance of the market starts to come back to where it is now, there's some advantages on the buying side. And I'll just go into one real quick that I'm starting to work with a lot of my buyers on. And that is the fact that now, as the market balances out, if days on market are starting to stack up on a house that we're looking at, we have a chance now to probably ask for some help with have the seller pay closing costs for us, for example. So when it's been a competitive market, you tend to take a lot of things off the deck, off the stack when it comes to putting in an offer. But when it's a little bit more balanced like this, there's some control that the buyer has as well. So it's always interesting to work through those nuances, and always honored to talk with anybody about that. Contact information is there on the screen, and we can really do a deep dive into their specifics.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, Jason. Liberty alum, Liberty guy through and through, been around the Flames a long time, and we're fortunate to have you sponsoring this podcast, and appreciate your relationship and partnership with us. And anybody out there interested in real estate in and around Lynchburg area, whether it's for your kids, or if you're a Liberty parent out there looking to get into the real estate market in Lynchburg, it's a great renters market as well too. Real estate investment type properties. Jason can help you out with all of that. So appreciate you, Jason, and I hope to see you down in Alabama this weekend, and hopefully we can high five each other after another W.
I'll see you down there, John. Thanks for the time.
Awesome. Always good to have Jason with us, and it's a pleasure to talk to Eli as well too. Haven't gotten a chance to talk to him a ton throughout his career, but I think we'll be hearing from him some more this season and as we continue to go through. So bring back Richie and CT as we move right along.
Yeah, thanks for bringing us back. What a great opportunity to hear from a guy like Eli. It's so easy in this world of college football to look at the transfer portal and players only being here for a year or two. But you hear that story, you hear Eli's story, and you just think, all right, hey, they're still that true 4-year guy. And John, you snuck in the Leesburg ad. I wasn't even ready. I saw it. I got all fired up. Seeing that gets me thinking about softball, and talking to Coach Dodd a little bit during the game. There's some exciting things coming in the spring. So we're excited about that, but we're also excited about 1-0. Beating Maine. We kind of alluded to it earlier. Yeah, you look at the box score, it says one thing, some struggles, all that, but overall, like it says, could be worse. There's worse places for us to be. But we got like the highlights of the pictures. We still do that, right? You want to have that for this game?
No, not for this game.
Okay, that's fine.
We got these other cool graphics that we'll have throughout the show, but not for a look back. But no, what we can think back to that game. Obviously 28-7 Liberty win, and I think we should start with the talk of the quarterback play. That was a story all training camp and going into this game and this season. I think Ethan, the first pass, the first play was I think it was a play action, if I remember correctly, and quick out to receiver to the near side of the visitor side of the field where I was. And, he just misfired on that. It's probably a little bit of juices going, but, that's just the way it goes sometimes, So he got off to a little bit of a slow start, but the offense was able to bounce back and move down the field. We talked about that already. And, a little bit of misfires there, here and there. But I think one thing that I learned about Vasco, and I kind of knew it already, but it was good to have that re-emphasized by watching it and seeing it with your own eyes. It's one thing to watch highlight tapes of, when you're not at a game or in a situation, but just him and his ability, or not necessarily ability, but willingness, I think is probably the better word, to lower his shoulder and pick up a couple extra yards on the quarterback run play. So he led the team in rushing, both rushing yards and rushing attempts. I think some of that's due to having 3 and 4 different running backs that are rotating there in the backfield. But, so I think that's one thing. The other thing is, like, he hit a couple throws too. Like, he had one, a crossing pattern to, I think it was Jamari Person there that set up that score. I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, it set up the touchdown pass to Reese Smith, which that was a nice ball. The ball to Dante Lee for the touchdown was another nice ball.
That touchdown to Reese Smith, by the way, was undoubtedly a catch.
Oh, yeah, 100%. They didn't even have to take an extra look at it. I mean, it was clear, no need to get the review. But I think it was a solid, again, like I said in the open, if you looked at the box score and didn't watch the game, you would think, oh, it's a solid game. I think he had 57% completion percentage, threw for around 200 yards and had 3 passing touchdowns. And most importantly, which I don't think we're giving enough attention to, 0 turnovers.
Yep.
Not just him, but the entire offense.
Yeah,
and
without a doubt. No, I
Yeah,
was just
so
going to
go ahead,
say,
TJ.
I think the other thing that really stands out about his performance is that there was no plays that I was like, oh, that made me horribly scared in terms of that just was a dumb decision on his part. At least that I can
Yeah.
remember, which is something that hasn't always been the case. So sure, there was some shaky throws, especially early on, like John alluded to, probably nerves, adrenaline kicking in and stuff. But there was nothing that I was like, wow, he just made completely the wrong decision there. Or how could he not see that defender or anything else like that? So I thought he played a very safe, solid game.
Yeah, I think we've and not just talking about our last quarter, but our last 2 quarterbacks. There's been moments where we go, oh. There was none of that. There was no there was none of that. And if you're not seeing live and you're watching later on Spotify, thank you. But yeah, you're like, what noise did he just make? But if you've been watching Liberty football, there's been times where we've had quarterbacks. And again, probably the last 3 quarterbacks we've had that you've been, ooh, but it all works out. But I do think safe's a great word. And I'll take safe week 1 against Maine. There was no need to go in and make anything crazy. But there were a couple injuries that took place during the game. If I'm wrong, John, I know there was some buzz online, people saying, like, what just happened? Why isn't so-and-so playing? Why does so-and-so have a cast? Some big names, too.
Yeah, there were a couple. Most notably, Brylan Green, you talked about, had some type of fracture in his wrist or hand. But he, put a cast on, came right back into the game, which was good to see. There was one ball I remember in particular, a pass play that he made the play on, and I feel like in years past you would see him run that one down and intercept it. Maybe due to that injury and having the cast on his hand, it might have. Might be in his head a little bit. But again, it had just happened and he just rubbed some dirt on it, if you will, and went back in the game. So he's now, going into Saturday's game, have at least, have a week to work with it, practice with it, get used to it, and know where he's at. With that injury, though, Reese Smith, took over the punt return duties, and he did an admirable job back there as well, too. Vaughn Blue is the other most notable injury. He only had 2 carries. A guy who was, you could call him an RB1 on this team. He didn't get the start. He was with the second group that went out there. But, Coach Chadwell said in his press conference this morning that he's likely to play. He was practicing. So we'll probably see Vaughn out there, hopefully. So those are the most notable. Sounds like we got out of the game relatively healthy, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, and you obviously want to be cautious in game 1 and all of that of trying to force anything. And obviously the news today about Berger, and obviously well wishes to him and appreciative of his time here at Liberty.
Yeah, no, it's obviously Ryan Berger. If you missed the news, make sure you check it out, ASORred.com. I have a story up there with some quotes from Coach Chadwell. And Reese Smith, also go back and watch that press conference. He had some good comments on Berger as well, too. You don't play around with head injuries, right? I mean, this is a guy who's had, definitely 2 concussions in the last 8 or 9 months, and may have suffered a third. I didn't hear an official diagnosis of a concussion in practice last week, but there was fears of that. Came out Saturday, and obviously he didn't play Saturday, so he'll stick around. Good for him to stick around and kind of be a graduate assistant type, student assistant, if you will, for the team this year. But Michael Merdinger, which we might talk about in a minute, is steps up into QB2. So. That's something to keep an eye on too, because you go from having a veteran backup to a guy who's only played in 1 game in his career, and especially with the way that Vasco, we were talking about his willingness to stick his neck in there to pick up an extra yard or 2.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be shocked if you need QB2 at some point in time this season. Hopefully not for long, and hopefully Ethan can stay healthy. But it's always reassuring when you have a competent backup.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to the depth and something we've talked about for a while where, hey, Von Blue gets hurt. We got 3 guys that can come in and play that position. We have Rylan Green get hurt. We have guys that can come in and play that position. Same with returning punts as well. Did see someone said Reese Smith, wide receiver 1. I think that's the case. I think it's been the case for 2 years now. I mean, he's that reliable guy. When you need a catch, you need third down. Reminds me of Hunter Renfrow when he first came in for the Raiders. He third down, 3rd and 6, bam. Renfrow was getting the ball for 7. So having a guy like that that's dependable, I'm glad that he's continuing that from there as well.
Yeah, agreed. John, one other thing to hit on that you mentioned earlier was talking about Vasco leading the game in rushing. And I feel like just one thing maybe of note that at least I thought I saw from the game was I thought Maine really made it their game plan to take away kind of the running back part of the option plays that we had. And they said, hey, Juju Gray, like you are not getting to the outside and we're going to make you beat us on the inside. So to me, it seemed like that's what they were doing. They had 2 or 3 guys getting the Juju Gray on the outside every single time. So that ultimately in turn led to Vasco keeping more of those options, having more rushes, probably more rushing yards, along with, the split carries and such as well. But that's one thing that I noticed that I thought they did a good job with in the game plan.
Yeah, I think every week it's going to be someone different. So it's fun. You never know who's going to have that big run, who's going to be the hot hand for that. So I mentioned it last week. One of my favorite things is those game day outfits. Seeing what people are rocking, more and more Liberty gear out and about. John, tell us a little bit of where's a good place maybe to get some maybe not just Liberty football gear, but just good Liberty gear to have.
Yeah, make sure you go to ASORstore.com, ASOR for a sea of red, and check out. We got gear out there for football, basketball, every sport, literally, and always getting out refreshed gear. There's some just posted today, so make sure you get out there and check that out. And we generally have really quick turnaround times. I mean, if you ordered something this week, it'll definitely be here by the JMU game, the next home game, and typically you can get it turned around within the week, 3-4 or so business days normally. So make sure you check out ASORstore.com. We always are refreshing that gear, so be sure to check it out.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. T-shirts, polos, quarter zips, hoodies. It is quarter zip season. I'm wearing a quarter zip tomorrow, and I am thrilled about that because that means football is here. And obviously we had football at Liberty on the mountain, but being in a conference means we get to talk about what else is going on around the rest of the conference. So there was a chock full of Conference USA. Everyone played a game, which was kind of different from week 0 where we just had a couple matchups, but a couple standouts. Some teams played well, maybe overachieved a little bit. Some publicly embarrassed us across the country. So I'm sure Jay Dizzy's hearing that with a grin on his face, but that's neither here nor there. But around the conference, what stood out? Anything crazy?
Yeah, there was a lot of games like you talked about. I think we'll talk about it more in a minute, but just mention UCF 17-10. I think a lot of us probably had a chance to watch a good portion of that game. It was a Thursday night. We can talk about that a little bit more in a minute. I think the most notable one, I kind of saw it late Saturday. Middle Tennessee got drubbed by Austin Peay 34-14. I mean, it's one thing to lose to an FCS team, but I mean, it wasn't even competitive. And I went back and read the recap and watched, looked at box scores and stuff like that. And the game wasn't even competitive. Austin Peay controlled that throughout. And, another funny thing is I saw the FCS top 25 poll that was updated today or yesterday. There is no Austin Peay in the top 25. So you go and pull off a 3-touchdown win on the road against an FBS team, and you still don't even get in the top 25 in the FCS. So that's an embarrassment. I'm hoping that Middle Tennessee is not that bad. And this was an anomaly, but it's one of those things you got to prove it. And I think they play Wisconsin this week. So
that's a good get-right game there.
So I'm sure MTS will be 0-2 here in a few days. But that was kind of the one score that jumped out the most to me.
Yeah, let's not pretend Wisconsin didn't have their own problems either, though. But regardless, yeah, that's going to be a challenge for them. The other one that I feel like a lot of people may have, if you had a third screen available on Wednesday night, you probably had first screen the Auburn game there. You probably had the Colorado game in the second screen, and that third screen, you might have had that Kennesaw Wake Forest game. And Kennesaw, despite all of their turnover, all of their challenges, they hung in there for almost the whole game. They lost 10-9 against Wake Forest, but it was a very tight, competitive game throughout.
As someone that's seen a 1 point loss at Wake Forest, it is what it is. Jacksonville State, obviously, like you mentioned, the Kennesaw State game. Western Kentucky, again, they played North Alabama. This Western Kentucky team is reminding me of those 2020 Western Kentucky teams that are going to score 40, 50 points a game. That kid is slinging it. They got wide receivers. They're probably, right now through week one, they'd be my number one team in the conference. It's not bashing anyone. You just look at what they've been doing, the way they look. That's a team that's going to be a problem, I think, moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I put them at number one in the Conference USA power rankings that we do each week this week, and deservedly so. They took care of business against their FCS team. What was it, 55-6, North Alabama?
Yeah.
Alabama, McIver had 5 touchdowns, over 300 yards. He pretty much did the exact same thing week 0 against Sam Houston. They got a multi-score win there, so they're 1-0 in conference. I think, especially with this, and we'll talk about it more in a minute, but with this unbalanced conference schedule now with 12 teams in the league, like Western Kentucky's in the driver's seat right now. They don't play Liberty. It feels like they're in really good shape to make that conference championship game. They do, I agree, look like the best team in the conference so far. We're very early, obviously, but they definitely look, come out gunning. And as we segue to this week's games, Western Kentucky at Toledo.
Huge G5 game.
That's a game I'm definitely watching and going to have an eye on that one. These two played last year in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and I believe I'm correct. WKU pulled that one out in a really close game. Mm-hmm. Toledo is again expected to compete at the top of the MAC. This is a game that, from a conference respect angle, you need Western Kentucky to win this game. So, I'm a Western Kentucky fan this week. I want them to beat Toledo and kind of carry that CUSA banner. And you talk about, wanting your strength of schedule to be better. Well, 8 of our 12 games are conference opponents. So the better your conference looks, the better your strength of schedule looks. So that's a marquee game this weekend.
Yeah, it's and you look at the games coming up for Conference USA this week. A lot of money. Our conference, these teams are going to make a lot of money. FIU is going to make a lot of money going to Happy Valley. Kennesaw State's going to make some money going to Indiana. Delaware is going to go to Colorado. That's just going to be a fun game to watch. Delaware is about to get paid. Middle Tennessee State's getting paid. Louisiana Tech's getting paid. It's just they're making money. Who knows what these scores are going to be? I mean, you got to shout out Delaware. Just had their first FBS game. Missouri State, they got to play USC. That I'm sure was fun, cool for those players.
So it was kind of fun to read the recap. I'm probably the only nerd out here reading all these recaps at every Conference USA game. But the SID recap for the Missouri State game was that score 72-6 or something. 73-13, they lost to USC. But the entire recap article, talked about the stats and the score, but it was all about a great way to start off your new tenure in the FBS, playing in an iconic stadium against an iconic team, name brand team in Southern California. It was really interesting to read that. But Missouri State, speaking of them, they play at Marshall this week. I think that's another good game that I'm definitely going to keep an eye on to see just how good is Missouri State. If they can go and hang with Marshall, they'll be able to do the same thing in Conference USA. I'm looking forward to that one. The other one that I'll mention, and then I'll shut up about Conference USA, is Sam Houston at Hawaii. Sam Houston, I thought coming into the season they were not going to have a good year as they got a new coach in there, and they didn't look very good against Western Kentucky. And then they didn't look too good this past week either. So playing at Hawaii this week, I'm expecting them to lose by multiple scores. But that this is a place where they could, get some attention if they can, hang with Hawaii and hopefully pull off the upset.
Yeah.
Johnny,
I was just going to say it'll definitely be tough for them to go out to the island and get that win. But definitely be an interesting game if you're able to stay up for that midnight Eastern kick. So for John, you're probably the Conference USA sicko who is going to watch it. But for the rest of us, we might be checking the box score in the morning.
Or just putting a little wager on the first quarter before I go to bed. So only one Conference USA matchup this week between two teams, and that is our Liberty Flames against Jacksonville State. A huge game when you look at the landscape of Conference USA. New coach coming in, Rich Rod, obviously going to West Virginia. Jacksonville State having their opener against back to UCF, Scott Frost. A good showing, holding UCF to 17 points. What are we thinking? How are we feeling?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting game. That's no doubt about that. They, I didn't expect Jax State. To be honest with you, I didn't expect much out of them this season. You might have listened to me and CT kind of break down the Liberty schedule the week ahead of the season, and go feel free and watch that again now. It's still very relevant if you haven't yet. But Charles Kelly is our new head coach, taking over. He was a co-defensive coordinator last year at Auburn. It's his first time as a head coach. You would expect their defense to be good, and that kind of played out, at least in their opener against UCF. Now, look at that score, 17-10. This is not, the Scott Frost UCF team of several years ago, right? I mean, they're down in the Big 12. Like, I don't think they're going to win very many games, especially, if they're struggling to pull out a win against a Conference USA team. They'll probably get better as the year goes on. But, so take it with a grain of salt, But at the same time, it's still a Big 12 team. They got Big 12 talent on that side of the ball. So to be able to hold them down to 17 points, and they had 10 points until the final minute or two of the game when they finally, got back on top and took the lead and ended up winning. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. But, it was a good showing for them. I'm very nervous about this game. I think, Richie kind of had the same idea I did when I first saw the line. It was, opening right around 6.5 and 7. I think it's down to about 5.5 now. Liberty is the favorite, which I think that's 3 or 4 points too high, probably.
Yeah. I was expecting a touchdown. I mean, a field goal. I thought it'd be a 3-point either way. Wouldn't have surprised me.
I think as well, looking at Jax State's game against UCF, John, you mentioned the defense. The other thing we'll talk about the offense is we mentioned earlier when you were talking to Eli August, it was something that it was pretty balanced in terms of the passing and the rushing. Might not have been the most yards in the world, but it was pretty balanced, close to 200 of each. So I think it'll be interesting. It's not going to be the same attack that we saw last year, especially with the quarterback leading the charge with the rushes. Their quarterback last week had, I think, 12 or 13 carries for about 30 yards, so not too much there. But they do have a really, really strong running back in Cam Cook. He had 75 yards, over 4 yards a carry. And he's a TCU transfer who actually led TCU in rushing last year. So he's definitely one that we need to make sure that we're able to stop and not give up those big plays to, which we saw. Even though we contained Maine's rushing attack for the most part, they did break off a few big plays. And that's something that we need to make sure Cam Cook does not do against us.
Yeah, and I look at the other side of the ball and strictly just looking at the box score. Both of UCF's touchdowns came on deep balls. Over 30-yard touchdowns. Interesting to see, is that going to be an option? And, John mentioned both those touchdowns came in the fourth. So, are we going to see some shot plays, open up the field a little bit more? It seemed everything last week was kind of contained 10, 15 yards downfield. Are things going to kind of spread out a little bit? It was great to see the triple option again. I think we'll see that a little bit more at Maine as well. But definitely this will really, it's a good opening test against what could potentially be a good conference team.
Yeah, UCF, definitely was able to, I guess I should say Jax State was susceptible to the pass from UCF on Thursday night. So we'll see how that carries over. They had a more difficult time running the ball. One thing that I did want to kind of talk about is, like, I know it's only week 2, and, it's so easy to be hyperbolic on some of these statements and things too, but I truly believe this game is not a must win, but it's as close to a must win as you can have in week 2. Like I said, it's an unbalanced conference schedule. We do not play Western Kentucky. If we lose to Jacksonville State, we're, probably going to be looking up at the top of the conference standings the rest of the way, because you don't get Western Kentucky. So that means Western Kentucky would have to lose at least 2 games for you to be able to jump over them. Or, maybe they lose 1 and Liberty wins out and it's tied. Then there's no head-to-head tiebreaker, so it goes to some stupid computer ranking, which
that doesn't sound like the Conference USA.
No. Do you want to put your fate in computers? No. And then obviously,
especially if they get a win over Toledo.
Yeah, exactly right. And their strength of schedule rankings are going to be better than ours as well too. So you don't really want to deal with that. And then if you lose a Jax State, then you're 2 games technically behind them. I don't think there's going to be any 2-loss teams in a Conference USA championship game in this expanded 12-league team. I just don't see that happening. There's going to be somebody that goes undefeated likely, or multiple teams with 1 loss. So this is huge. Now, on the flip side, if Liberty does win this game, I think we're in the driver's seat. Like, I would put money on Liberty making the Conference USA championship game if we win Saturday, because, if you look at the rest of the schedule, like, again, I'm not going to say, like, we could lose to anybody. We know that. We lost to Kennesaw last year, but, if you look at the schedule, like, the rest of the games are favorable. This conference schedule is very favorable. We don't have Western Kentucky, like I mentioned. You got 3 more weeks to figure things out. I also feel like our team we're going to be trending up. Like, this is a long play. That's why I said all along, September is the month to be worried about. We got these next 4 games. We could lose all 4 of them. We could also win all 4 of them. But the most important one, obviously, in my mind, I know everybody's going to look at that JMU game, but it's Saturday. You take care of business Saturday, and regardless of what happens the next 3 weeks, you set yourself up to have a very successful season. And like I said, you're in the driver's seat to make it to the conference championship game. Because, again, look at that schedule. Look at those last 7 conference games. Liberty would have to lose probably at least 2 of those to not be sitting pretty to get in the conference championship game. I don't see 2 more losses in the conference schedule. Could be wrong. I do not see that, as long as we stay healthy. So it's huge game. Cannot overstate the importance of this game. I know it's week 2, but it's a critical game.
No, that's great, John. And just to break down what the rest of the conference schedule looks like for us, we're going to the midweek games. So in October, we have at UTEP, and then we're home against New Mexico State. We only have 2 midweek games this year. And we're home against Delaware, home against Missouri State, back-to-back weeks. The 2 new teams at FIU, at Louisiana Tech, and then home against Kennesaw to wrap up the season. So to echo what you said, I think we'd have to, if we win this game, we'd have to lose 2 of those games to really be worried. And our 2 toughest games, in my opinion, on that is at UTEP and at FIU. So could we lose one of those? Absolutely. But I really, really don't think we'd lose both of those games. And all that being said, I personally, without trying to give the Jacksonville State trolls out there too much Twitter fodder or video clips or anything, I don't think we're going to lose this weekend, me personally.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, CT. But one more thing, just to kind of reemphasize what I was stating, like Liberty, like if we were to lose Saturday, we could end up 7-1 in conference play and not make the conference championship game, because Western Kentucky and or Jax State could win out until they play the final week of the regular season, and the winner of that's in, and then the loser, like if it's Jax State, we're out. So again, it's a huge game. But I'm with you, CT. And JR, as he's saying here, I don't like always talking about losing. We're not losing. We've got to show some improvement from what we did week 1, or we will lose.
Yeah, John, the next time someone online says that all a sea of red does is just drink the Kool-Aid and look at everything through Liberty red rose-colored glasses, I'm just going to clip that. Liberty could lose the next 4 games. So everyone thinks out there it's just, Liberty's never going to lose. No, that's not the case. Why don't you watch a podcast for once? But that's neither here nor there.
Well, I'd like to add to that, like these last 5 years, there's been very little to complain about or to critique about Liberty athletics. Yes, last year was a down year in football, but hey, if we have an 8-4 season in football once every 5 years in Conference USA, I'll take that. Men's basketball had a down year their first year in Conference USA. I said, give Coach McKay a pass. Let's see what happens. Look what happened. We can be critical when you need to be. There hasn't been a lot to be critical of recently. I think I'll stop before I get myself in trouble.
No, well, at the end of the day, people love metaphors more than they love facts. So that's neither here nor there. But next Flame Up segment we started last week. Excited to give you our thoughts about who's going to be the next Flame Up. What are we thinking? I shouldn't go first.
Well, I'll go first. Mine's a little maybe boring. Nobody wants to talk about the offensive line. I had a hard time. I had one picked out, but Richie had a better one, so I kind of pivoted. I'll go Trey Badowski, UAB transfer. He's a grad transfer, a veteran, starting left tackle, played most of the game, got a lot of snaps. I think he led the offensive line. Don't quote me on that. I think he led the offensive line on snaps. We need this offensive line to pick it up. You heard Coach Chadwell talk about it at halftime. He also talked about it in the post game, and he talked about it again today, that the offensive line didn't quite grade out as well as he wanted it to. So we need the offensive line to pick it up, and that starts this week. And I think Trey Badowski is a guy that can kind of step into a leadership role up there alongside an Aaron Fenimore, because some of the other guys alongside him are young and a little inexperienced. DJ Gaff to his right, the left guard, is it's his first time as a starter. He has tremendous potential and upside, but he's young. He's a redshirt sophomore. He played sparingly last year, didn't play as a true freshman. So I'm looking at Badowski to kind of like I said, he's the old man in the room. Even Fenimore is a redshirt sophomore, so it's a lot of young guys in that room. Looking for a guy like a Badowski to kind of take that next step, become more of a leader in the room, and let's get this offensive line back to the level it's been the last 2 years, where we've been one of the top 5 rushing offenses each of the last 2 years. Because I think that's the biggest thing that this offense needs from week 1 to week 2 is improved offensive line play. Because if we're going to score enough points to win Saturday, it's going to have to be behind that offensive line, protecting and then also opening up lanes for some of those young running backs. Because if you got a huge hole to run through, it's a lot easier to find it, regardless of who the running back is, than if you don't and you have to, kind of create something out of nothing. So my next flame up this week is Trey Badowski.
Yeah, that's great, John. That's a really good one. And I agree that it's the offensive line that, hey, if they take a step up, that opens up the running game more, that opens up everything. So I definitely agree there. The one, I'm going to go a bit more literal with this. Say the next flame up is Michael Merdinger. So it's something Ryan Berger, unfortunately, he has to step away from playing on the team. He's still going to, it sounds like, be with the team to a degree, like you mentioned earlier in the show. But next man up is Michael Merdinger as QB2. And that's the case that, hey, if God forbid anything happens to the Vasco at some point in the season, he's probably going to now the guy stepping in. He's only played in one career game, new transfer to the team. So there's a lot at stake for him to, take off the clipboard in a way and step in the game, but he's the next guy up now. So it's going to be exciting to see if he does ever need to come into the game again. We're not hoping for that. Nothing against him, but we're not hoping for that. We're hoping our starting quarterback stays healthy. But if anything happens, he's going to be the man. So to get thrust into that QB2 spot in his first season in Liberty is a big deal. So next flame up, Michael Merdinger.
He is a transfer from UNC. I bet UNC wishes I had him after yesterday's debacle. I'm going with Evan Dickens. We've talked a lot about the running room, but that wasn't a name that we brought up a lot. And he's a transfer from Georgia Tech. He looked really good every time he got the ball. I like that all of our next flame up kind of. We have the offensive line. We have new backup quarterback, and just Evan Dickens. I was impressed by the way he handled coming into the game. I mentioned the Von Blue injury. Probably got more time than we expected, and he expected. The coaches expected. And what I love. And this is just sicko stuff. Go look at his Georgia Tech picture. He's smiling. Hey, happy to be here. His Liberty picture, locked in, dialed in. Saw that. He's a dog. Played at IMG. Played around some great players. Played for a great team. And he is, without a doubt, my next flame up.
No, that's a great one. And Dickens was working with the first team this morning in practice. So he ended up leading the team in carries, which I was a little surprised by that as a running back behind Vasco. I was a little surprised by that. Some of that might have been due to Von Blue's injury, but it'll be interesting to see how those carries break down. He kind of ended up, when he scored that touchdown there in the fourth quarter, I'm not sure if he came off the field for another offensive play. So no, that's a really good one. And like you mentioned it, he was kind of the fourth guy in this running back room coming into week one, but looks like he's kind of, or at least looks like he may have the chance to jump over a couple of guys in that room and take on a bigger load. And I'll also say when he caught that screen pass down that sideline, like he turned it into another gear. I didn't realize he had. Like he really because I was thinking, he's probably knocked out at like the 10-yard line. The next thing you know, he's kicking into high gear and reaches for the pylon and got in. So, very, very good pick, Richie. That was
Thank
great.
you. I'm learning things. I sound smarter this year. I'm not going to say I am smarter, but I sound smarter, and that's really half the battle. And speaking of smart things, we reached out to our fans because that's important. We appreciate everyone tuning in. If you're watching live on Twitter, you're checking us out live on YouTube, checking us out tomorrow or next videos on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe. We appreciate the feedback. We appreciate that support. But we reach out to the fans so we can get a little bit of a fan pulse.
Yeah, and it seemed like there's a few kind of common themes that came up among the fans. And so, again, like Richie said, hey, each week we're going to be putting this out on Twitter after the game from the See Red podcast X account, not Twitter. And so please get in there, respond, drop your takes in the comments as you're watching live. But like I said, a couple common themes came up. So first one, a little bit silly, but I'll just drop these and kind of toss it to y'all to see your thoughts. So multiple people talking Mr. 55, Brendan Schlittler, Mr. Phil, Mr. Jerry, a bunch of big names on Liberty Twitter said, hey, fans, stop chanting when we're on offense.
I don't think it's that big of a deal. This isn't an 80,000 person. This isn't Brian Denny or like. I don't think it's that big of a deal. That's just me personally. I didn't notice anything. I wasn't like, why are they making? I thought it was just. There's going to be crowd noise wherever they go. I didn't think it was anything that was preposterously loud. Like, you can't have 10,000 students silent. It's just I don't know what you want me to say. I didn't think it was a big of a deal personally.
Yeah, I think the big one that they heard at least, or were talking about, was at one point, I think it was probably in the fourth quarter on a third down, or maybe it was even fourth down. There was an LU chant that started going back and forth. So I don't know. John, could you hear that one from the press box? Do you know what I'm talking about or what they were talking about?
I did hear it. And I looked down and saw are they called the Flamettes still? I don't even know. The Flames dance team was there, I don't know if they were leading the chant, but they were at least encouraging the chant. And I kind of was scratching my head like, okay. And I'm also one of those guys that have always tried to be like, do not criticize the fans. Like, they're fans. Like, it is what it is. But I do think at some point in time, like, we've been FBS for 5 years now. Like, it's time that, our fan base matures a little bit. Is that fair for me to say? Like,
Oh, but yeah, a lot of them were homeschooled, didn't go to high school football games.
I know, but at some point in time, and maybe we're still a generation away from getting to that point, and maybe it's just Liberty attracts their average student is different. It's doesn't necessarily grow up a sports fan, but anyways, I think we've already talked too much about it. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on. A couple more. We'll do a couple quick hitters on the offense. So specifically regarding, the running game in particular, DC Eagles said, hey, felt like a lot of the 2023 success was with the pitch option play. We haven't seen the same level of success since. And Jordan Whitlock said, do we have the right running backs for this run-heavy offense? I'm curious y'all's thoughts about the running game, especially moving forward.
Yes. John alluded to it earlier, younger offensive line. If that gets right, it's kind of cliche, but if the offensive line's getting pushed, then I think we have a stable of 4 running backs that can give you yards. They're going to give you plays, and that 4th and 2, hey, we know we can pick up 2 yards right here with this push. So I'm not worried about the running game at all as long as the offensive line play is there.
I think it was kind of interesting that Chadwell he was asked about Caden Williams' play in week 1, and he was named Conference USA Freshman of the Week or Offensive Freshman of the Week. And, Chadwell was very blunt and basically said, we need more out of him. We need him to run harder. There were a couple of occasions that I noticed in the game that it felt like, and again, we've had Quentin Cooley the last 2 years, so we were a little spoiled. But it felt like, we were 1 yard short of the first down, and we didn't really, stick our foot in the ground and turn upfield to make sure you got that extra yard to get across the sticks and to move the chains. But again, we got a lot of young guys in this room, Dickens, Williams. They're young guys. They don't have a lot of playing experience at this level. So I think they'll get better as the season goes. We just got to kind of, I hate to use the phrase weather the storm, but we got to kind of weather the storm with them, through the month of September. I hate to keep going back there as well too. But, I think once we get into October, we'll feel a lot better about them. But, right now we just got to weather the storm.
Yeah, that's good. That I feel like that transitions us to maybe a last couple of comments, talking about overall performance and maybe again looking ahead to next week. So Jerry Flincham said, hey, stop worrying about the slow 3 quarters. It's strategic, is what he said. So it sounds like he had the inside scoop into the coaching staff. But Christopher Taylor, not to be confused with me, said, hey, slow starts in openers are typical even for the biggest programs. I'll have more questions after the next game if we don't put that first half and change in the opener category. And then finally, Liberty Realist said, going to be a long and very disappointing season yet again. So feel like we have quite the polar opposite ends of the spectrum there. So what do you guys think about how much stake we should take in that opening game, and then what do we feel going ahead for this next game and the rest of the season?
One thing I'll say is fans, and I lump myself in this category myself, we're very quick to react before we have all the data. Think about that North Carolina game last night. How many North Carolina fans with about 7 minutes left in the first quarter were sitting there, cashing tickets to go to the CFP or to win the national championship? And then how do they feel today? They're ready to fire Bill Belichick. That's just what fans do. They overreact way too much, way too fast. I was in the press box on Saturday at halftime reading the replies to a See Red Twitter X. It was just insane what people were saying. Again, it's one game in. We're at halftime. Even today, are there causes for concern? Yes, 100%. If we play the way we did in the first 3 quarters on Saturday this week, we're going to lose. But I don't, let's wait until we get a larger set of data before we sit here and say, Chadwell has this team going on a steady decline every year he's been here. That was a comment I saw. Let's give it a chance. Let's see what happens. I don't have his record in front of me, but what is he 22-5 or whatever at Liberty, even with a disappointing 8-4 season last year. Like, let's just wait and see how this thing goes. Again, I've talked about it already a lot. Week 2, this is a huge game for us. It's a big test. If we win this game Saturday, we're going to all feel a lot different next week this time. But let's just wait and see what happens before, like I said, it's so easy for fans to just have a quick reaction immediately. And I think that's part of that happened on Saturday. But yeah, I mean, slow starts are typical.
Yeah, and if we beat Maine by 60, people will just go, so what? It was Maine. And if we won by 3, it's okay to not have an answer after week 1. It's okay to go, hey, maybe I want to see more. And I think we're in a society right now that it's like the answer needs to be right now. And I don't think that's the case. I love Jerry said, yeah, we were not with 3 quarters. Like Jerry was probably watching the Fiesta Bowl 4th quarter. Like we got him right where we want him. So like, who knows with Jerry? But yeah, I mean, there doesn't need to be an answer right now, and that's okay. And to echo what John said, yeah, there's things to be worried about. It's okay to say that. I think if you ask any fan of any team, no one's like, yeah, we're set. Ohio State fans will probably like, you probably need a better offense right now. Texas fans, like it's okay to want more. It's okay to not have an answer. And John said we will know a little bit more next week. So that's when I think we can have more of a logical discussion.
Yeah, we will. And again, I want to reiterate, I'll say this until I'm blue in the face throughout this month, but September has the potential to be rocky. Like, I think we can go 5-0, wake up October 1st and be 5-0. I also think we can be 2-3 or 3-2. And even if we are 2-3 or 3-2, we're not going to just mail in the season and say it's done. Like, I think we have a good chance to, hit our stride once we get into October and win a bunch of games. Will I be disappointed if we lose 2 or 3 of these games? 100%. Do I think we're going to lose 2 or 3 of these games? I do not. But, this one, again, talking about conference championship is huge because, what I already talked about, I don't want to talk about it anymore. But, let's have some patience with this team. We got a lot of new faces, a new quarterback, all new running backs, 2 to 3 new starters on the offensive line, new pieces at receiver. We're going to have to rely on this defense some early, and it's going to be okay if we win 14-13. Like we won. Let's move on. So yeah, let's just wait until we get some more data. And Saturday, there'll be a chance for us to assess where we're at.
The Godfather of Liberty fans has spoken. Anything else from the fans?
The only last thing I'll just say, just to jump in, I feel like we hit on, some people saying, hey, the fans were chanting at the wrong time. I just want to give a shout out to all the fans that were there at the game. I know there's a guy that Richie and I were sitting with, and he said, wow, this crowd is amazing. The students have showed out today. And he was really proud of it. So it was really awesome to see the crowd that we had. It was going to be even better for the JMU game, but for the FCS game against Maine, it was a really great crowd and a really great atmosphere.
Yeah, you don't want to be critical of them, because you want the fans to be there, right? So I hate to be critical of the crowd and things like that. How serious is Green's injury? I mean, he came right back in to the game, and he'll continue to play through the injury. You might not see him in the return game. It might affect his ability to intercept passes, but as a safety, you can still apparently play with a broken wrist, hand, whatever it is that he has.
Week 1 in the books. Any closing thoughts? I feel like we nailed a lot. I do have to confess something to you guys, and I'm worried that I now have to do this every week. When I got back to the hotel after the game, I went and I used the bathroom and I realized that my boxer briefs were inside out. So I think I got to wear my underwear inside out until we lose.
Whatever works.
Whatever works. I'm willing to try anything. So that little tuck behind the curtain, boxers or briefs, Richie long shots, boxer briefs. Inside out on game day.
We can have Richie's confessional as a segment each week where you tell us, what happened. We compare that with the results of the game. So we'll keep
Well,
you in
I mean,
check.
they tried bringing me to confessional in the student conduct office, and that didn't work well. Where do I get the hat? I was baffled. I was leaving the game, and I looked in the little little like pop-up shop they
Yeah, right
have there.
outside gate. Yeah, right
Why
inside
isn't
gate one.
hold on? Why didn't Reese Smith? I don't know. I thought he got a great amount of time. It's early in the season.
I think he
You're
led
trying
the
people
team.
out.
Reese Smith, I think he led the team in targets.
Led the team targets, receptions, maybe
Yeah.
even yards.
Yeah, beginning
At
of the
least
season.
receiving yards.
Still trying things out. Open up the playbook a little bit. But they had this at the little in-stadium store, and I'm like, there's no way that they're selling something that looks this cool inside the stadium. It was $42, but I'm like, I'm not going to find anything like this unless I'm not going to find it up in New Jersey. Can't find it online. So I pulled the trigger, but I got the hat at the stadium. Baffled.
And I could be wrong. I noticed when you first got it, I was like, oh, the E and the R look a little weird. But I could be wrong. I'm guessing it might even be like Jerry Sr.'s handwriting or something like that they used for it. That's just a guess. Don't quote me on that. But
Well, CP, you just sold about 17 of those hats just by saying that.
perfect. There we go. So
Maybe we'll get Dr. Towns on the podcast to confirm. That'd be quite the guest. So, anything else to wrap up? We're a week in the books. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, no, that was a fun week. Good to get football in.
Yeah.
Get a win under our belts. Really looking forward to Saturday. It's a tough game. It's the last two teams that have won Conference USA meeting in week 2, and I feel like the winner, like I already said, the winner of this is in the driver's seat to get back to the conference championship game. So it's a huge opportunity for us. You would hope in year 3 under Coach Tawa, we'd be able to have an answer for a first-time head coach, and his second game ever. But again, they're going to be ready for this game. I'm sure they probably withheld quite a bit from both of their playbooks, offense and defense, to show for us this week. But I'm looking forward to the game. It's a great test. We'll know a lot more about this team this year after Saturday. And, even if we were to fall, it doesn't mean the season's over. We still got a long ways to go, and we can claw back to get in the conference championship race. It just will be a little bit of an uphill climb, but looking forward to the test.
Yeah. So as always, thanks for joining us. We love getting Just Talk Liberty, not just here, but online when we see fans out and about at tailgates. So we'll see you back here next Tuesday, hoping to keep the winning streak alive. This should be a great game. 12 o'clock, CBS Sports. Excited to have that linear game. And we will see you next Tuesday.